Welcome back. This is K24 This Morning. We're looking at the big stories making headlines as always. You can keep tweeting us. Our handle is at K24 TV. If you want to SMS us, alternatively, you can get us on our line. It's 21222. We're looking at the front page of the People Daily, helpless man or fearless fighter. Move on to the Daily Nation, and it just paints a picture increasingly of a man under siege, hard-pressed and in a corner. Now on the front page of the Daily Nation, uproar of a plan to impeach Ruto. Senate Minority Leader James Orengo says they have sufficient grounds to seek the removal of Deputy President from office. But the question is, can he marshal two-thirds of all elected MPs to support his bid? Very confident Senator Orengo says, just watch his space. Gives a time period, by the way, 2 weeks. We'll start the process that will see us deal with him. Quite a Herculean process, even on the best of days politically, to speak on this, Frederick. When the senator says this, what does this mean? Because let's not forget, this is the same senator who at the beginning of the year said, we're going to be having a referendum very soon. In fact, in June or July it will happen. No one had spoken about it. Here we are thinking about crafting a referendum question. Does he know something that other people don't?
Always when politicians speak, and I'm speaking as one, you need to read the other side of what they did not say. So this is the second time Senator Orengo is talking about impeachment of DP. I think last year he talked about it, and this time he's talking about it. But let's look at the law. What does the law say about removing the Deputy President from office under Article 150? The requirement is that there must be certain grounds, and those grounds, you cannot read Article 150 in isolation. You have to read it together with Article 145. Now what happens, for you to remove the Deputy President under impeachment, there must be grounds. Those grounds can be incapacitation, on grounds of violation of the Constitution, international law, national laws, gross misconduct. I don't know on which grounds we will be bringing that motion. But that
they're
motion,
saying on the grounds that they're talking about, on the fake 40 billion shillings arm deal and the killing of the police officer, which are going
probably
to
violation of the Constitution, yes, most likely. But that motion must be brought to the floor by a member of the National Assembly, not a member of the Senate. And the procedure is such an elaborate one because it must be supported. If it is on those grounds, it must be supported by a third, then the voting, 2/3, and then the Speaker of the National Assembly must inform the Speaker of the Senate within 2 days, and then another 10 days, they form a committee of 7 members, and that committee takes investigation. Then they report. At that time, the Deputy President will still earn a salary, will still work, and he has a right to be represented by an advocate or represent himself. Now, remember, impeachments are political processes. They are not legal processes. They are political processes. And therefore, politics will come into play. By that time, the factions that you're already seeing will now start reforming. You know? And you and me know what will happen. I want to say this. I think, and I say it again on this show, the President of the Republic of Kenya, Honorable Uhuru Kenyatta, has not come out and told Kenyans that I don't want my deputy. He has not told Kenyans that we are in battles with my deputy. He has not told Kenyans that the Deputy President is bad. I've not heard it. But what I've heard is politicians speaking. And politicians will speak. And as I said, you need to read the other side of what they did not say. Right. So in politics, how it happens, if you are in competition, then you must paint the other person as bad as you can. But there are also certain elements that would be true in what politicians say. So it's a mix of the two. But I would dare say that impeachment of a senior person like the Deputy President will be a bit difficult, even though it is possible.
Dennis, we have Caleb Kositani, Soy MP right there, and he has a quote as well. He says, any kind of impeachment needs 2/3 majority vote, and as things stand now, they cannot meet such thresholds. This is coming from a person who arguably is one of the close politicians to DP Ruto on this. And some people are wondering, should they be talking about how difficult it is to meet the threshold, or the fact that the grounds upon which the impeachment shall be put are false? Should they be starting from that particular point of view? Are they saying, or even if you go down this road, you still can't manage because in the House it's impossible to get this number?
You know, what we need to be discussing about is not to authenticate hate or nationalize
or legitimize hate towards the Deputy President. What we need to do is to ensure that we offer enough protection under our Constitution, that the DP has to enjoy his democratic rights, his economic personal rights, and rights that protect his office against such type of bullying that Mr. Orengo is discussing now. Because we know the Orengo is a mouthpiece. We know he's a marionette
for who?
Of the powers that will be.
That we shall
in
not
fact,
name
Orengo right now,
because we've been talking,
Orengo,
we've been speaking about these powers that be. So whose mouthpiece is he? He's speaking on whose?
Raila's mouthpiece, perhaps the mouthpiece of the executive right now. But the truth of the fact is that he's a mouthpiece. In fact, he's now the face of demagoguery. You understand? If you ever want to see somebody with an insatiable need to please evil, put Orengo's face on it. And that's the truth of the fact. But we cannot now start authenticating issues that as he's bringing in place. You understand? But let us discuss about what some of those acts will do. Because from the mudslinging, from the smear campaigns, so you're finding a reason to legitimize that the Deputy President will not be in any successive politics in this country. You want to find any reason whatsoever to criminalize him. Any reason. Because they have been speaking about the corrupt nature of the Deputy President, yet they have no single evidence to take to the DCI or to the court. Nothing whatsoever. So it's hot air that they're breathing. But the insatiable need to see the Deputy President fall is dangerous to this country.
Dennis, let me ask you, when you talk about him being the mouthpiece of probably the executive or the PM, do you feel that the impeachment motion will take place and will go to Parliament? And
you see, the truth of the fact is that what some of those discussions and what that will do, it will heighten the political risk on this country. It gravely so. Because as I said, the Deputy President is a movement. We know that he's being targeted wrongly. Even my grandmother in the village knows that the Deputy President is being targeted wrongly. The common man associates himself with the DP against the technocracy and the autocracy of this country. And let me tell you something. Kenya has not lacked good leadership. What has happened is that every good leader who has risen to rule this country has been assassinated. And there's a long list to it. There's a long list to it. Kenya has not been short of good leaders. But any good man who rises to lead this country is stopped by the bullet, stopped by poison. We can name many of them since independence, who this country would have gone forth if they let us. And Kenyans have seen something good in the DP, whether you're smearing him or not. And Kenyans desire, because a politician is a means to an end, is not the end. We desire that he takes us, whether it's 10 strides or 2 strides further, because I believe that democracy is sequential, dreaming is sequential, you understand? Blessings are sequential. You literally have to walk towards them. So at the end of the day, taking out the Deputy President is taking out the dreams of many. It's actually burying this country into further acrimony that we don't want. So whether there's impeachment or not,
do you feel
the fact is that,
do you feel that this will actually
it cannot be successful because it is based on fallacious grounds. It's going to be embarrassing to a man that we think is an intellectual that now has become a demagogue. The truth of the fact is that under what intellectual or thinkable terms or under the law, what will he accuse the Deputy President of? Because the Deputy President is neither incapacitated, he has no criminal capability. And if you think he has a criminal capability, could you please present that to DCI or present that to the court? This thing that they're trying, and let me tell you what, I'm a security expert. Arms dealers are the most sharpest people I have ever seen. They will never ever get into something that is fallacious. They do their background checks, they do the integrity, they check everything of the sort, and they know the centers of discussing arms deal in this country. They would never go to the DP's office.
Let me bring in Nerima on this as well.
By all means, they wouldn't.
Okay, I hear you, Dennis. I hear you, Dennis, on this. Nerima, we're talking about the likelihood of this impeachment even getting to the floor of the National Assembly, this being brought up by a senator. What's your take on this? Might this be second time the charm as far as senators' accusations are concerned and actually walking the talk on impeachment of the DP?
I find it hard to believe when we're talking about impeaching the DP when even governors, the Nairobi governor, we struggled to impeach. So highly unlikely. But what my concern is the fact that there's this narrative that it's a way to prop the deputy president. If it involves people's lives, then I'm concerned that people's lives are being utilized. If today is 2 years since the handshake, today, yet here we are talking about how it has created divisiveness instead of the very thing it was supposed to do, which is cohesion. So it's clearly not working. If we're talking about just a few days ago, people were literally harming one another. This is creating violence, ethnicity again, and we're talking about an election that's not even nearby. So is it retrogressive? But also, I believe that the state has created narratives in the past. And this makes me think about even the death of J.M. Kariuki. And considering that he was also a firebrand coming up politically, and he was traveling to Mombasa on a bus, and he had threats on his life. He thought that his life was in danger, and he mentioned it severally. But once he got the tip-off, he didn't go in the bus, but that bus ended up having an explosion. Over 20 people died. To make a political point, which was to tone him down. To tone him down. Because they had no problem with him eventually becoming president, just not now. But then we're seeing that now later on history now teaches us that his assassination was not supposed to happen. It was a mistake. Yet, he was led to that assassination by a friend. And it also shows you that here we are having narratives being printed on paper all over the place to change a particular story. And even with J.M. Kariuki, they almost couldn't find his body or things like that for a number of days. And until today, the youth don't even understand that story or what it means. Yet it holds a lot of history for the very fact that when his body was in the morgue, they had labeled him a Luo gangster because he was missing teeth. This is the kind of history when we label particular tribes as being violent that we have in this country. And I'm seeing that we are painting another label. It looks like an individual now, but soon enough we will be talking about an entire community. And it's worrying when the general public have no knowledge or information, because this is not readily accessible. Unless you have interest for it and research on it, you will know. But then the media and other avenues that have access to share this information should be objective to the point, where there are certain instances where things that are happening within offices shouldn't be happening, but they're there. But we have a government that is so keen on protocol, but all of a sudden this protocol was skipped. So why? So I think there are greater questions we should be concerned about, and not playing with our lives as Kenyan people as if we're just flies just to decide what to do with our lives because you have a bigger political agenda and that person breathing matters nothing to me. We all have dignity, and that's what the Constitution gives us, people power. But then here we are not understanding and living our very Constitution.
Justice, we've had that particular scenario being bandied severally here concerning assassination of the number 2 in the land. And we've heard severally him talking about his own state of security. Some people allied to him have had their security withdrawn as well. He's had himself been thrown out of his various places in Mombasa and all over the place. Should we take this seriously now? Because we're now getting to a point where we're getting to the story of, the boy who cried wolf. Did it so many times that when it's actually needed, nobody's paying attention anymore.
I want to have a take on the issue of impeachment, and I want to confess that our time changed. That today, Orengo is almost the flower girl and working for the deep state. It's a contradiction. I mean, I think power is fleeting, and I think the new boys in town who can make a call to the president and then the CS in charge of security nowadays, and I think that they are a bit more excited to imagine that Orengo of all the people now is part of the cabal. Who are getting a little bit excited, I think is a very interesting scenario that I'm sure historians will really, the BBI season has created, angels out of, I don't want to say demons, and demons. I think it's a very interesting scenario.
Do you think this statement, even as we move along, do you think this statement was out of excitement?
You know, but I want to disagree with my colleagues that I do not underestimate the power of the deep state and the government machinery to push through an impeachment. You know, all the impeachment that we have had, like I'm sure Ruto has faced the same challenge in the past, but I think this time round is a bit more dangerous because I think the government could lend a hand to Orengo. So I do not want to underestimate the capacity of government itself and machinery and intimidation to bulldoze and bully some of even Ruto's supporters to begin to be sympathetic to the idea of an impeachment. So to me, well, it's a difficult, I must agree, but then again, you cannot entirely, I've worked with government myself, you cannot entirely say that it is almost an impossibility to push through an impeachment on. It may not ultimately get to Ruto being impeached, but I think it will really make him sweat, because I think, nowadays you only need to sing BBI and you are cleaner than anything else.
So it could get to the floor of the House?
Most likely, in my opinion. I've had this before. There was a meeting somewhere. I have some information that I have had a meeting. If Orengo is now the soloist of the people pushing for Ruto's impeachment. But, the irony again is that it may not destroy, the attempt is to destroy Ruto legally. You may not destroy Ruto politically, you know it. Right. That Ruto is a movement politically. And that is why, in my opinion, they want to bring down Ruto legally so that come 2022, if you are impeached, most likely then in 2022, it is difficult to then become a candidate having been impeached, because then in the issues of Chapter 6. So to me, I think the system would wish to destroy Ruto legally. If you destroy him legally, then you have destroyed him politically, because it's most likely then he's not going to be a candidate in 2022. What
about physically, when he talks about his state of security? And
yes, we have had individuals who had expressed the wish to run for presidency in the past, who have mysteriously died. So to me, again, it is a serious matter. The problem is, I do not think the president has come out for obvious reason of cohesion of the country and say that I have instructed the police, the Inspector General or the DCI to ensure that my deputy, and I think my worry is that I do not think that the president is handling because this is a transition period, and it needs a firm hand of the president. I'm beginning to feel, and unfortunately, that the president could be allowing some individuals to take charge of the transition period. And it's a very dangerous period. If remember Moi, for all the faults, was able to, take charge of the transition, and in fact stood his ground and say, Kibaki has won, let's hand over. Remember again, in around 76, 77, 78, still you could see the firm hand of the late President Jomo Kenyatta in saying this conversation about envisaging my death, and then who then becomes the president, should stop. Then again, he was able to take firm charge of the transition period. But this time round, to me, it is one of the most dangerous times we have ever faced as a country, because I don't think the president is going to be in charge of this transition period, and he needs to take charge of this country. Right.
Let me get to Fred, even as we get into our second break, because as we come back after that particular break, we'll be talking about CS Matiang'i going to Somalia and leading that delegation in terms of talks between Kenya and Somalia. Met President Farmaajo right there. And again, we ask ourselves, when it comes to the Deputy President, he says he's a principal assistant of the President. There are 4 or 5 functions legally attributed to him. What is he supposed to be doing?
You see, Jeff, I've said before, the President and the Deputy President are elected as a ticket. And therefore, that is the reason why in Article 148, the Deputy President is the principal assistant of the President. And if you see how they take oath of office, it follows the same pattern. But now, the Deputy President has been a very active. I think for the first time we're having a very active number 2 in this country. Very active and a lot of energy. But our constitution did not envisage a situation where we can actually now say these are the functions of the Deputy President. We don't have them. So what he has been doing is trying to push the agenda of Jubilee. The President has got a complete cabinet. And even when we talk about, I'm sure we'll talk about it, the visit to Somalia, under the authority of the President, in protecting the principles of the national security. That's what the President applied to send Matiang'i. That is his job. And that's what Matiang'i should do under the authority of the President. That is it. So people would start reading that the President is isolating the Deputy President. I don't think so. Because the way things work, they work, and the way the President is advised from the point of constitutionality, not from the point of political platform. So that has taken place. Thirdly, if you ask me what should the Deputy President do, I think he has been doing what he's supposed to do, because he has always talked about it is time to put issues on the table. Let us look at the issues to do with electricity, water, roads. He has been saying those things all along. So I think he's doing what he's supposed to do. And I want to believe that is the President's agenda, because the President said it is now time to work. Politics aside, it will come. And the President has said we must achieve certain issues on development. The Deputy President has been pushing that agenda. So if you ask me what he has been doing, I want to believe he has been working to get to the President. And as I said, President Uhuru Kenyatta has not told Kenyans that there is any differences between him and his deputy. The Deputy President of the Republic of Kenya has not told Kenyans that there are differences between him and the President. The only two gentlemen that can tell Kenyans that we did have a problem and this marriage is over is the two of them. The day they say that, I'll comment about it. But before they have said that, or before they say that, anything that is happening, all of us will just speculate. But in that speculation, it is politics. Because in politics, it's a competition. And the best way to hit at your opponent is to use any means. Unfortunately, that is not good politics. Because good politics is the good politics of agenda, ideas, and you put it on the table, the other put it on the table, and then you compete on that platform. Okay. In this country, we have seen instances where that does not happen. When we go into 2022, Jeff, a lot of things are going to change. The realignments are going to come. And some of them will bring strange bedfellows together. Who tells you that Deputy President cannot work with Raila Odinga? Who tells you? Let's take a short break on that particular point. We'll be back after the break. Keep your tweets coming in at K24 TV. Sir Vickery Omwando says, if fighting corruption means isolating thieves, then be it. We need a better Kenya right there. Frank Tetezi also tuning in saying, hashtag K24 This Morning, loving the show so far. We have, where is that? At Christina Manjari saying, okay, fine. Even as we get to this particular point, we don't want to know the DP's job is, because there are so many youth without jobs. That's the issue. Couldn't have been put even better than that. We'll be talking about comment after. No, we're going to the break right now, Dennis. Let's take a short break at this particular point in time. When we come back after the break, we shall have Dennis's comment. But also after that, speak about the trip to Somalia by the CS Matiang'i. And also, as Christina well put it, what's happening to the jobs? Daily Nation, where Kenya's economy is on its knees, unemployment at its highest ever, while agricultural exports have declined. We talk about the economy after the break as well.